Welcome to Oncology Revolution, where science meets care to transform the cancer journey. We explore evidence-based strategies to enhance quality of life, promote longevity, and empower patients and professionals to thrive beyond cancer.
Welcome to the Oncology Revolution. I'm Marta, your host for today, and I'm a functional medicine certified health coach with a background in sports science and a master in teaching. I've walked the cancer journey up close through both of my parents, and that experience profoundly reshaped the way I view health. It taught me that healing isn't just about medicine, it's also about prevention, daily choices, emotional safety, and the deeper human experience that often goes unspoken in conventional care. And today's guest is someone whose journey reflects that evolution beautifully, Beatriz Subtil. Beatriz is a health educator and promoter, a mindfulness instructor, a conscious communication trainer, and a coach. But before all of that, she was a scientist, holding a PhD in biomedical sciences, where she specialized in tumor immunology and explored how cancer cells interact with the immune system. During her research, she made a profound observation, not just in the lab, but within herself, that disease is incredibly complex, that every tumor, every immune response, every person is different. And that perhaps the most impactful path forward lies not only in treatment, but in prevention and awareness. And that realization led her down a transformative path from studying human cells to exploring how we live, relate, and take care of our health on a deeper level. Today, through her project Subtilment, she brings science, mindfulness, and conscious communication together to educate and empower people, helping them make more informed, balanced, and meaningful health choices. Beatriz, I'm truly honored to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we dive into your story, I would love to begin with something a little more personal. Yeah. What's something that made you feel grateful or especially present this past week?
I think this weekend, actually, I was able to spend some time with my family, with my grandma and my cousin, which I haven't seen in a while. And in the holiday home where we used to spend holidays when we were children. So it was really nice to be back there, and it made me feel really present and glad to be back.
That's lovely. Love that. So, Beatriz, your academic background is remarkable. A PhD in tumor immunology, studying how cancer cells interact with the immune system. Can you take us back to that time in your life and tell us a little bit more about your background? What exactly were you studying, and what did you begin to uncover about the complexity and individuality of disease?
Yes, of course. I would be happy to share a bit about my academic background. So I've always been fascinated about health and disease, and why is it that some of us are healthy and others not? And for a long time, I really thought that I would find all the answers in the lab, in the cells. And I really wanted to uncover all these molecular and cellular mechanisms that were underlying these states of health and disease, and that I believe that they were really encoded in our biology and our genes. And so with this end in sight, I did a bachelor in biology. That was my first dive into the academic world. And I also did a specialization in molecular biology and genetics, really because I was really interested in these molecular mechanisms. And this bachelor really allowed me to understand how the body works, our biology, physiology, everything. And in the last year of my bachelor, I went for an Erasmus exchange in the Netherlands. And this is where I ended up living for 8 years, and where I really went all the way through my academic path. During this last year of my bachelor, I already started to learn a bit more about cancer and immunology, and both topics really fascinated me. So then I decided to continue and do a master. This time it was in medical biotechnology, because I was really wanting to focus more on illnesses and how the diseases develop. And biotechnology allows us to go into these illnesses and try to understand our biology so that we can use it in our favor to cure diseases. So basically, we make use of biology to help us find treatments. And in the end, I was really fascinated about cancer. It is really a very complex and transversal, almost omnipresent in our society nowadays. And I was really aiming to understand what was happening in our body when cancers arise, and also trying to understand the immune system. Why does it have such a critical role in fighting cancer, and how we can tweak it to help us stop progression of treatments of cancers or even treat them. And then I decided to pursue a PhD in biomedical sciences, specifically in tumor immunology, because I was really interested in these interactions between the tumors and the immune system. Because basically tumors are constantly interacting with the immune cells, and the immune system is able to detect and destroy these cells. But what happens is that the tumors are able to corrupt the function of the immune cells and even hijack them in their favor. So really trying to transform the cells trying to fight them into their allies. And during my 4 years of research, I was really investigating a specific type of cancer, colorectal cancer, which is the cancer of the colon and rectum. It's a highly prevalent tumor nowadays, and it's also very deadly. And I was studying this cancer in the interactions with a specific type of a immune cell, which are the dendritic cells. And like you said, like you asked, I do think this is one of the main challenges in cancer treatment. It's the complexity of the tumors and also the individuality of the tumors and the cells, that they are all unique because they are our own cells which get diseased. So even the same type of tumor can be completely different in different people. And then this also means that people also react differently to the treatments. And so every person, every tumor, every treatment will be different in all of the cases. And I think this reality makes it a very difficult task to find treatments that work for everyone. And that's why there's a lot of treatments that are effective, but usually just to a small percentage of the people. And it's really because cancer is not one disease; it's several types of diseases, and it's a disease of our own cells. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and it brings me back to how important bio-individuality it is,
Yes.
right?
Definitely.
And that is often forgotten
Yeah.
in the treatments.
Yeah, I do think that cancer research now is going into the direction of personalized medicine and patient-tailored treatment, specifically because of this. But of course, this is very laborious and very expensive. But I do think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're making a good progression in that. And of course, it will take some time. And
Yes.
as you said, the costs involved also play a big role. But for sure that I can see that treatments will be a lot more individualized over time.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. So we know that the immune system plays a central role in cancer, right? And that many tumors, they develop mechanisms to evade that immune detection. In fact, immunotherapy has become one of the most promising treatments for certain cancers, right? Precisely because of this connection. So for those who might not be familiar with tumor immunology, can you briefly explain what you discovered about how tumors can hide from the immune system?
Yes, of course. So basically, like you were saying, tumors have this toolbox full of different strategies that they can use to hide from the immune system. Because the immune system, we usually know it because of its ability to fight bacteria and virus and other pathogens that can enter our body. But our immune system is also designed to protect us against internal threats. So not only external threats, but also internal ones like cancer. And cancer is not more than a malfunctioning cell of our body. So it's a cell that stopped functioning properly because of chance or because of a genetic predisposition. and because of environmental factors as well. So this cancer cell starts malfunctioning. It's no longer integrating signals from the environment, because we are made up of trillions of cells and they are all working together for the greater good of our body functioning properly. So it's when one of these cells kind of loses the synchrony with the other cells of the body, and it stops integrating signals from the environment, it starts proliferating, and it also becomes immortal. So it's not only not dying, this cell, but it's giving rise to several other cells that are also malfunctioning. And when these cells accumulate, this is when cancer forms, develops, and this can really impair the function of the organ where the cell first rise. And then it can also spread to other organs. And that's when the tumors metastasize. And this is also usually where the treatments stop working, because it's really just a malfunctioning of the whole body at this point. And so the immune system is in principle able to detect these cells, and it does every day. It detects and eliminates these cells before they reach a point where they are already considered a tumor cell. But sometimes the immune system is not able to do this, and it can be for various reasons. One reason is, for example, stress, and this is also something we can touch upon later in the conversation. But basically, when our body is chronically stressed, it is not, the immune system is kind of put on hold, because if we are facing an important threat, that's what our body is perceiving when we activate the stress response, then the immune system is no longer important. So this means that being chronically stressed can also make us more vulnerable to the development of tumors. Other reasons can be that these tumor cells, that they really become malignant and almost evil, in the sense they also develop ways to hide from the immune system. So our own cells can be like disguised so that they are not recognized as being a malfunctioning cell. And it can also happen that, and this can all happen simultaneously. So it's not one mechanism, but it can also happen that the cancer cells corrupt the function of the immune cell. So the immune cell, when it gets closer to the tumor cell and can recognize, well, this cell is not functioning properly, we should eliminate it, the tumor can really corrupt it, so make it malfunctioning or even killing the immune cell. So this is what I was studying during my PhD for this specific cancer and this specific type of immune cell, which is dendritic cells. And the dendritic cells, they act a bit as the cameras that are searching for anything that's wrong in our body. So they are always surveilling the environment and trying to see what is wrong for any type of threat. And these cells, when they recognize a tumor cell, they basically take a bit of it, like an evidence that something is not right. And they can take it to other immune cells, which we can call, for example, the police cells, which are the T cells. These are the cells who are able to really destroy targets and really just search all over the body and really specifically destroy the tumor cells. But for that, they need these dendritic cells that I was studying to inform them and say, these are the cells you have to look for, and these are the cells you need to destroy. So you can imagine, if the tumor is disrupting the function of these dendritic cells, it really blocks here a bridge for these more adaptive and specific immune responses to take place. And what I was studying is indeed that different ways that the tumors corrupt the function of these dendritic cells, and how this then leads to a chain of problems in the immune response, and where it really gets dysregulated and it's no longer functioning. And then this will allow the tumor not only to grow locally, but also spread. And that's, like I said before, this is where then the treatment options get really reduced, and most people, unfortunately, don't survive when the tumor spreads. So this is a bit in a nutshell what I was studying.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of good information, I think, for me. And as you said, we're going to get there a little bit to the part of how we can control the environment that the cells are on, right? Because we have that power of controlling the environment that also controls our cells.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things back then when I started looking at cancer cells, when cancer knocked the door, was their ability to multiplicate, like so a lot faster than our normal cells, right? So yeah, it's really interesting to understand all of these. And even though that cancer, unfortunately, it's not a good thing at all, our body is still so smart, and our
Definitely.
biology is still so smart.
Yeah, and we do have the tools inside us to fight the tumors. And that's also, like you mentioned, why immunotherapy is such a big thing now in cancer treatment. It was really an amazing breakthrough, which is basically trying to harness and give tools to our immune cells that are able to do the job and kill the tumor cells so that they are functioning properly. Because, yeah, like I was saying, then in the cancer setting, usually the immune cells are also not working. So with immunotherapy, we want to boost their function and make them work better and help our own body fight it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned before that the more you study cancer, the more you realize how unique each tumor and immune response was. And now that led you to become curious about prevention. Can you walk us through that turning point and how your perspective on health started to shift?
Yes, of course. So yeah, during my PhD, I was working mainly with human cells, both from patients and healthy donors. And both the tumor cells were from samples of patients, and the immune cells were also taken both from patients and healthy donors. And of course, a PhD is a very specific study, and I was really looking into very much in detail into these cells and trying to understand the different markers and different types, their behavior, their function, what kind of proteins they were expressing in their surface. And I think this is, like I mentioned before as well, one of the major bottlenecks in cancer treatment is really because all the immune cells are different, even within the same patient, and all the tumors are different. So it's also a tumor is just a mass composed of different cells. So not the whole tumor is not going to respond equally to treatment. And then I was also studying the part of the immune cells, and they were also so different, and it varies over the day, over the time of the life of a person. So I don't know, at some point, I think I got a bit overwhelmed with the amount of variability there was. And I was really wondering to myself, is it possible that we ever find a way to cure it for everyone? So that was really a point. I do think it's possible, but like I said, I think it needs to go more in the personalized direction, specifically because of this. But I was really wondering for myself, is there another way to tackle this disease? Or because I had this feeling almost as if it was like this huge tree and I was cutting the leaves like one by one. And I was wondering, is there a way that we can cut the evil by the root? Is there another way to look at this? And I think both parts of the equation are very important, studying and trying to focus on treatment options and how can we tackle the tumors that are already here. But I do think it's equally important to study how can we prevent them from happening in the first place. And I think for a long time, and this is also what I believed and what led me to study this field, was that everything was written in our genes, in our biology. So there was not much we could do. But now it's widely known that tumors and the development of tumors is really intensely promoted by our lifestyle, by the different choices we make every day. So our nutrition, the exercise we have, the stress we experience daily. And this is when I started to look for literature also on the causes of cancer. I was really hyper-focused on the treatment part and when the cancer was already there. But then there was something in me that also wanted to understand, but why does it arise in the first place? And this is when I started to understand that there's a lot of literature and research already on the different causes, on the different factors. It's, of course, a factorial disease. So it means that there's different factors playing a role and we cannot really isolate it was because of this behavior or it was because of this gene. It's always an interplay between our genes and our environment, with very limited exceptions of some syndromes that are really genetic predisposition, and it does the cancers arise much earlier in life. But the most cancers that we see in our society later in life, they are really just a strong combination between our genetic predisposition and our health and our environment and all these changes that throughout our life have such an impact on how our biology expresses. And that really motivated me to wonder like what side of the battle I wanted to be. And like I said, I think both sides are very important, both the treatment and the prevention. But for me personally, it made more sense to fight cancer from this side of the battle and really try to understand what choices I can do daily. So what is within my control, and what I can do and everyone can do every day to try to prevent this disease from arising in the first place. And when we're talking here, of course, about cancer, but this applies to a multitude of diseases that are now present in our modern world. So it was just for me that it suddenly made more sense to change here the battle sides without, of course, saying that the work I did or the work all the researchers do in treatment, it's not worth it. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's very important. But it ended up being more of a personal choice and of mission and things I wanted to do with my work afterwards.
Yeah, I love that you've been in both sides, or you were in one side and you know the importance of that side, but you still decide to explore other, right? And that is really important. And I think most people quite often come to that conclusion that if you really want to get to the root, it doesn't mean that you're not going to still be looking for the solutions and using the best that we have of medicine, of science to work on that, but we need to also work on what's at the root and on the prevention, right? And as you were talking, I always use this example because now we have epigenetics, right? And I always use this example, which is, let me see if I'm not going to say it wrong, right? The genes, they load the gun, but your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's definitely true. Yeah, it's a very interesting field, the epigenetics field, and it's really developing over the last years. And it is true. It is the percentage of diseases that are really genetic in the sense of even if you would do major life changes, nothing would change. It's very, very limited. So it's really most of the times just this interaction between our genes, our genetic predisposition, and our environment. And even if we would have a genetic predisposition towards maybe being more possible that we develop cancer, I think we could do everything that it's in our control so that the gun is not fired. So we can really try as much as we can to just optimize our chances. In the end, it's a game of chance, and it can happen to anyone. And it does have both these two components, so the biology and the environment, but we do not control our biology. So I would think that it would be better if we would focus our effort in trying to control as much as possible our environment. And the environment is not just where we live and the people we are with, but it's also what we do every day, what we eat, and the environment we create inside our bodies, really.
Yeah, and our environment certainly affects our biology, right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
or influences. Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking about, especially, in today's world, most of the diseases that we are seeing, they are all lifestyle related. And so there is a lot of work that can be done. And also when it comes to relying on genetic, there is just so much power when you don't rely on genetic. Because in the moment you say, oh, this is just my genetics, you are putting your power away, and it will change how you will address your life, how you will take ownership of your health and everything. But I think that would be a completely different topic for another talk, maybe. So I know mindfulness came into your life during this transition, and maybe even while you were still in your PhD.
Yes.
What role did mindfulness play in your own life and health at the time? And what drew you to explore how our internal state impacts how we live, heal, and even respond to treatment?
Yes. Yeah, learning about mindfulness, I would say, was the most transformative thing that ever happened to me. It was the one thing I learned that completely changed the way I live. I first heard about it in a very stressful moment of my life, which coincided with a difficult point of my PhD, and also with the COVID lockdown. So it was just a lot of things to handle at the same time. And it did feel a bit that for the first time in my life, I didn't feel in control of my stress and my anxiety. And it was actually just by chance that I saw a course that also talked about mindfulness. And I decided to follow the course and give it a try. Even though now it's really part of me and part of my life and part of the things I teach, at the moment it was really far away from what I thought was a normal thing to do in a strategy to cope with stress. Just sitting still and observing and not doing anything was really far away from my reality at the time. And it sounded quite difficult, and it was, the whole path, it was difficult. I do think there's a lot of misconceptions around mindfulness and meditation, which I know at least I did have some. And from the people I work with, I know they are present as well. But mindfulness is basically just our ability to pay attention consciously to the present moment, to what we are doing. And it can be both to our internal experience, what we experience physically and mentally, but also our external experience, what is happening around us. And it's just doing this with an attitude of trying not to judge, not to label it as wrong or right or good or bad, but just really observing it, a bit like a witness, being a witness of your own experience. And also changing this judgment by curiosity. So really wondering like, what is happening? What is it that I'm feeling? What is it that is happening outside? And why is it impacting me? And this is an ability, because a lot of people tell me, oh, but that's not for me. I don't have that in me. This is an ability that we can all train. And for most of us, of course, it's really out of what we usually do and how we live. A lot of us live in automatic pilot. We just react to the things that happen to us, and we don't really take the time to respond. And we just live these unconscious lives as if life is passing by. This is also how I felt at the time before encountering mindfulness. And this, of course, has huge impacts in our health and the way we live, just because we are not present enough to be able to choose how we want to respond in a moment. And we can practice mindfulness in different ways. So usually people also associate it immediately with meditation, which is true. It's definitely a great way to practice mindfulness. But this is something we can also practice in any activity. We can practice in any moment during the day. Just having this intention to be present and to pay attention. And it's like being aware that we are aware of what is happening. It's not just that I'm having tea and thinking about the 300 things that I have to do still today, but I'm drinking my tea and I'm paying attention to the tea that I'm drinking, and I know I'm doing it. So we can do this while we're brushing our teeth, while we are walking, eating. It's really something we can practice every time, and it doesn't take extra time for our lives. This is also something I usually like to teach. But we can also practice it through meditation. And this is, of course, the way we practice. It's called the formal practice, and it's a more intense practice. And it's a bit as if we are going to the gym to train and practice our attention. So we create this artificial environment, just like the gym. The gym is also an artificial environment we create to train our muscles. We do that with meditation. So usually we sit still, we close our eyes, and we choose a focus point. And it's not more than training this attention, this ability to be present with what it's present right now. And we choose a point to focus. It can be our breath, it can be a sound, it can be our thoughts, it can be our body, any part of the body. And whenever our mind and our attention slips away and we start thinking about something else, we just bring it back. And this is the secular practice. This is just it. It sounds easy and difficult at the same time. And I do think that summarizes it pretty well. I do think it's both. But yeah, when I found it, I've never heard about mindfulness before. It was just something that really, I never cared to look further, or I thought it was not for me. But then when I started to practice it myself, and I noticed so many differences on how I was dealing with my stress. It's not that it takes away everything or painful experiences. It's just a different way to relate to them. And then I also started to look at the research that was already out there into mindfulness, and it's huge. There's a lot of research already. and the impacts of mindfulness in all different parts of our health. And it's proven to have a major impact on our stress levels. This I like to say that it's a side effect, so it's not something that immediately happens when in the moment we are practicing, but it's just a side effect in long-term practice. And there's even an 8-week course that is already scientifically proven. It's applied in many medical settings as well, that it does decrease our stress levels, our inflammation levels, the cortisol and other stress-related hormones levels also lower, just great for our health. But just this ability to be present and be present with our lives and be able to choose and decide, and it's just such a freedom that sometimes we don't have. And it's great because I do think that research now is keeping up with mindfulness, because in a way it's a traditional and a religious practice that has been around for many years, and now I feel like science is just catching up with it and explaining what's actually happening and why it's so great for our health. And specifically in the cancer setting, there's a lot of studies being done as well with mindfulness. In the medical center where I did my PhD in the Netherlands, they did have a cancer center specialized just in mindfulness, and it did all types of clinical trials, some small, some large, but it is already proven that practicing mindfulness can have a huge impact on the way. Well, just lowering stress levels, of course, has a great impact for anyone, specifically for someone that is dealing with the diagnosis and with the treatments and all the pain, emotional and physical, that comes with it. So that already helps a lot. Also, just there was also a clinical trial about how mindfulness can help with just facing your death, because sometimes this is really the outcome, unfortunately. But it was also proven to improve treatment efficacy, improve health outcomes in general. So it really seems like a great practice, especially because it's something that we can always have with us. It's not a pill that we have to take. It's just something that it's within us, that we can practice it, we can take it everywhere. It just feels a bit like a superpower, to be honest. I do feel it like that in my life, and I'm very happy that I encounter it, and that's also why I decided to become a trainer, so that I could also bring a bit of it at least to other people's lives and just share a bit of this knowledge.
Yeah, I really liked how you brought it up, for whoever is listening, because I think that is a common misconception of everyone always thinks, even about meditation or whatever it is, that it's not to have thoughts. And they just think this, right? And it's not. And with mindfulness, especially in today's world, because our attention span is being like completely knocked out with all the stimulation and everything. So this is a tool that is really crucial to everyone. Like you said, most people are living in automatic pilot. I think we all have been there, probably. And I even call it the hamster wheel. And if we don't start to consciously creating these moments to be present in our body in the moment, we're just gonna live a life that it's in the past and in the future, but it's never really fully there, right? And I really believe that it can have an impact to those with cancer. As you said, there is a lot of research already, and it's just such a rich practice that you can do. I love how you said that you don't need anything to do it. It's available every time, every moment, and you can do it anywhere, right? And you will see nowadays people are just so disconnected, even when they are with friends on the conversation. If we sometimes we are watching TV and we are double scrolling, right? Like we really need to bring a lot more mindfulness to our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And also something that I like a lot about mindfulness is that there's like no prerequisite. So You don't need, and this is also a common misconception, you don't need to be calm to practice mindfulness. You don't need to have no thoughts to practice mindfulness. That's impossible, actually, but it's just that you can practice every time, even when you're feeling bad. And that changes everything, because if you're always trying to find, oh, the right moment to meditate, where the conditions are great and there's no sounds and no one there's at home, that's not a goal, because we don't practice mindfulness and meditation to be better at it. We practice to live better and to be present in our lives. And our lives are not, most of us don't live in a monastery, so they are not calm and relaxed and there's no sounds. There's a lot of things going on. So it's also great to practice in different moments. And for me, it was really a breakthrough when I was able to practice when I was feeling upset, when I was feeling angry, when I was, and just observing everything that's happening in the body and just witnessing. It's really amazing. And it's that pause that, like you said, allows us to take us out of the automatic pilot, which it has an evolutionary reason for it to develop the automatic pilot. It helps us in certain ways. It's great to be able to drive and not think about, oh, now I'm going to put this gear, now the other one. So it's useful in certain contexts, but we ended up, when it spreads to all areas of our lives, this is when the problems begin, when we don't have we don't hold the reins of our life anymore. And of course, there's also the impact it has on health. If we are not living, if we're not making choices, then we're also just letting our health being at the mercy of our automatic patterns, our reactions, things we learned, things we observed. And mindfulness helps us take a bit the power back. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And even when you were saying about observing yourself, even if it's because you were going through hard emotions, right? When you're observing, you're creating space.
Yeah.
And creating that space will help you either navigate it better, whatever you were feeling, but also it will help you with the way that you're going to be responding to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a really, really powerful tool.
Yeah, I do think so.
Okay, so from mindfulness, you went on to study communication and coaching, bringing in the human and the relational side of health. Why was that important to you? And what did you feel was missing in the way health is traditionally approached? And how does conscious communication fill that gap?
Yeah, so I got to conscious communication through mindfulness. So mindfulness was really, it opened the door to a lot of different practices and also different ways to apply these presence, this ability to just be with whatever is happening, that also extends to our relationships. And so it was through mindfulness that I learned that we can also apply these principles to our relationships. And as humans, the basis of our relationships is usually communication, because that's how we can get our messages across, we can understand the other person. And so if we also intentionally change the way we communicate, we can have a huge impact in our relationships, which of course also have a huge impact on our health. This is also something I found out later in life. I would have liked to know this before. This is also what I felt with mindfulness, like, why didn't I know about this before? But I decided to give it a try also with this of the communication and trying to change the way I communicate and I relate to others. And it had such a immediate and huge impact at my personal and professional relationships that I thought, wow, this is really an impressive tool and just way to live that I also want to implement. So I decided to study it a bit. I did some nonviolent communication courses and mindfulness communication. I also trained to be a trainer and be able to teach these tools. But it's not more than a framework. There's a lot of names, there's a lot of different structures and a lot of different types of communication theories. But I do think it all comes down to being able to be present with the other person. And this is something we practice when we are able to be present with ourselves. Then it also becomes easier to be present with the other person. And I did notice that changing the way I relate to others had a huge impact on my well-being. And actually, this is also when I found this great study from Harvard. It's a study of adult development, and it's the longest study ever done with people, in the sense that it really tracked people from when they are young until they die, and now even their descendants. And they were studying what is the major predictor of health and happiness. And it all came down impressively, because it was a huge study with so many variables, so many things they looked at. And really, the outcome was that the quality of the relationships was the major predictor of health and happiness, not only perceived by the person, but also in terms of clinical markers, for example. And that also really strengthened my passion for learning more about communications and relationships, because it's really, I think, also a missing piece. And I do know that in healthcare, this is also a problem, in the sense of being able to connect with doctors and with nurses and the people that take care of us when we are in difficult moments. Sometimes these relation side, so this part of being able to relate to others, is also not very present, and this of course has a huge impact. But besides this realm of be a patient and disease, even in our day-to-day, that if we are not able to connect with the people around us, this has a huge toll on our health and well-being. And then coaching came a bit later. I also dived into coaching, because it was also something that came afterwards. There was just suddenly all these techniques and all different things that I wanted to learn. But it was also a great addition that I added to the new set of skills that I was learning, just having also this framework to help catalyze change. So have the knowledge and be able to apply it. And I did work as a coach part-time during my PhD with students. And it also showed me that how important this is, this relationship and being able to establish connections. And for me, this was all informed by my background and all the other practices and things that I was learning. But I guess all this path with the communication and the coaching, adding to the mindfulness and to my academic background, it really came to a point where it solidified my view on health as not being absence of disease, which is a lot of people just consider themselves healthy if they are not sick with some kind of disease, but really starting to see health as this continuous state of well-being, social, mental, physical, which is always interchanging, and it's dynamic, but it's just having this continuous sense of well-being, together with having now a more preventive view on health. I do adopt it a lot now, that it's more important to understand the root causes and prevent them from happening than trying to just focus on mitigating symptoms, even though that can also be a very important part as well. But I guess then this path I found it a bit round, in the sense of, okay, this really consolidates my new view on health, that it's really integrative with all these dimensions, and also preventive, in the sense that we can proactively help ourselves be more healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. In functional medicine, we have what we call the lifestyle factors, and one of them that is at the root is definitely relationships, and we are getting more lonely, and connection is something that really has a huge impact on yourself and your health. So talking about, you said to catalyze change. So you've mentioned that your goal is to be a bridge between complex science and everyday life, between research and real human experience. What does that mean to you, and how do you help people integrate what we know in theory into how they actually live, feel, and care for themselves?
Yes, so this is something I started to notice during my PhD, is that in general, it feels like science communication is really a big bottleneck when it comes to translating the content and the knowledge that we already have to information and tools and strategies that can be applied in everyday life for everyone. So science communication and making science available and accessible, I think it's something that it's really missing. especially in Portugal, I think that just in general literacy in health is low. It's improving definitely, but there's still a lot of like a long way to go. And I had this feeling when I was researching that I was always talking to other scientists. I was just communicating to other scientists that on this specific level, and sometimes I would have this sense of I'm doing this for the people who are sick, for the people who want to live better lives, and sometimes I was missing this bridge of being able to reach out to the people to whom I was aiming to help, to the people, with the knowledge I was trying to create. I had this bigger goal of helping people. And that's why I decided when I created Subtil Mint, which is my health education and promotion project, I really want to be able to do this, to be able to filter information, because there's a lot of information out there and sometimes it's difficult to know what's true, what's not, and be able to filter and also translate it in a language that makes sense and in a language that people can take and apply it to their lives. And because I do believe so strongly now that health prevention is so important, and we all can do more for our health than what we think. But for that we need knowledge, and if knowledge is just on the side of scientists and doctors, then it becomes difficult for all of us to act before it's too late, before we do have a disease or we do have a syndrome that we can no longer fix by ourselves. So it was really, now it motivates me a lot to be able to bring this knowledge and these tools and these informations in a way that it's scientifically supported, that I know it can be helpful and help people implement them in their lives before they are sick, before they need medical care. Just like as if we are continuously trying to improve our health in a way that we try to keep the machine working and going strong, both our physical, mental, and social dimensions of health.
Yeah, that definitely, it's a huge gap, and I'm really excited that you were bringing your attention to creating that bridge, because even if we think about sometimes we see physicians or doctors talking about things to patients, but the language is so complex that they
Indeed.
don't really understand anything
Exactly.
of what they are saying. So it's really important that we start to simplifying the language so it can get to everyone. And then when it comes to taking ownership of our health, I think that always starts with education, right? So
Yeah,
that is really, really important.
definitely.
So I hope to see more scientists coming up to help to educate people in
Yes.
health and well-being,
Yeah,
definitely.
I do think so. I
Yeah.
hope.
So let's bring this full circle from tumor cells to conscious living. In your view, how do lifestyle, mindfulness, and emotional awareness play a role in cancer prevention, or even in supporting someone during treatment and recovery?
Yeah. So I do think it's a bit of a summary of what we've been talking about, in the sense of when we become aware and we understand what has impact in our health and not, we can then decide to do different if we want. And this is, I think, also the beauty of it, in the sense that we can just choose. And we might not choose to go to the path of, yeah, I will do this because I know it will be good for me and I want to follow this healthy lifestyle. But at least it's a choice. And I do think it's very important. And when we open this space for awareness and knowledge, then we can make choices. And like I was saying before, these choices can all have a huge impact in our health and in the development of diseases and the way our body replies and responds to treatments. So it's really about giving the people this awareness, these tools, this knowledge to be able to make choices. And I think all of this is also very linked to a topic that I love to work with, and I know you also do, which is about the nervous system and the importance of just maintaining this equilibrium, this internal equilibrium of our having a regulated nervous system. And And the nervous system acts a bit like the conductor of our body. So it's the one who sets the rhythm, who goes now, who goes next. And it's really just when the nervous system is dysregulated, it really falls out of place. And the symphony of life gets really disrupted because the nervous system really controls all the other systems. So I think here it also plays an important role. For example, chronic stress, it's highly present in our society. A lot of people suffer from it. And then it gives rise to a lot of diseases. But it starts with a dysregulation of our nervous system that then impacts everything else. And sometimes knowledge that is as simple as this, in the sense of understanding what impacts our body and all the different consequences that it can have, people being aware of it, I believe that then there's more space and there's more likelihood that people start to make different choices because they want to care for them and they want to feel good. I think everyone wants to feel good. So it's just this type of knowledge and information that I think it can be important, because I think a lot of people think their health and their biology already predetermines everything and there's not much they can do. I do think that's a very common view in our society, and just letting people know and also have the ball on their side for a bit and like, what do I want to do and how do I want to live? I think it can be very empowering and have a huge impact in cancer prevention and all types of disease prevention, actually. And if we ever come to the point where we seek, that also can help us deal with treatment and move forward from the disease.
Yeah. And we are here to change those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be changing those beliefs. It will take its time, as with anything, but we certainly will. And I think people are getting more and more in tune with their health. That is certainly a long way to go, but with taking care of themselves, with trying to understand more their daily choices and its impact. And and we can't dive to the nervous system otherwise, but I have clients that tell me, and I do believe this, honestly, nervous system education should be taught in school to everyone. Everyone should understand how their nervous system works.
I agree.
But again, that is another that is a topic for another day.
Yeah.
So you've walked so many paths, and now you're guiding others through this unique blend, right? That we already talked: science, presence, and conscious living. I guess you already kind of gave us a feeling of it, but I'm still going to ask, what is your mission today? And what are you most passionate about helping people remember or reclaim when it comes to their health?
Yeah, so I really want to empower people in the sense of them knowing and having the knowledge on their side of being able to be aware of and understand their health, understand their bodies, understand their minds, understand how relationships affect all of this, how their environment also completely changes the way they feel. And I really want to, like I was mentioning before, open up this space for people to know they can do things. There's a lot of different tools. There's a lot of different strategies. There's a lot of different things we can do to improve our own health and take the reins and hold the reins of our life, really. And I think that just being able to have a choice and not feel as if life is passing by and our health just, we cannot do anything about it, is what it is. Just passing out this knowledge that there's things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do, and giving the people the knowledge so that they can make these transformations in their lives, and also knowing that it can be just one small step at a time. It doesn't have to be these major, huge changes now in terms of nutrition or exercise, but just step by step. I do think it feeds itself in the sense of when people start to feel that they do something and that impacts them in a positive way, that then feeds themselves in the sense of they also feel motivated to continue. And my invitation is really that, just trying and just choosing to do something different and see how it impacts. And I really believe that that knowledge is power, and that being able to deliver knowledge that I know that can help people. It's really now my mission to be able to deliver this knowledge and help people live more healthy lives, I hope.
I'm sure you will do that. And as you said, the power of choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Mm-hmm.
powerful when we know that we have choices,
Mm-hmm.
especially for our nervous system,
Yeah,
knowing that
definitely.
it has choices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do believe, and that has what has been my journey, like
Mm-hmm.
education and
Mm-hmm.
knowing more. But then with my how things evolved for me, I came to
Mm-hmm.
understand that that alone it's not enough. And I know you're not saying that that is enough, but then when it comes to behavior change, we
Yeah.
have another layer, another
Yeah.
level where the nervous system also comes in. But
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that's something we can talk another time, because I know
Yeah.
you've been also focused a lot on stress and nervous system. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we'll bring another episode just on
Yes.
that, if you're okay.
Yes, of course.
Um, so before we close today, I would love to ask you, if
Mm-hmm.
someone out there is listening right now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe feeling disconnected from their
Mm-hmm.
body, overwhelmed by health information, and God, today there is just so much information
Mm-hmm.
available
Mm-hmm.
actually, or even unsure where to begin,
Mm-hmm.
what would you want them to know?
Mm-hmm. I think I would invite them to start with awareness, because we can only change and we can only um, make different choices when we see things in the first place. So we can change what we can't see. And if we don't observe our body, if we're not aware of our body, our minds, our environment, and all of these affects our health, and we don't have also a clear vision of we are now, how is my health now, and not in the sense of the clinical parameters only, but how do I feel in all these dimensions? We also cannot change. It's like we want to go somewhere, and we can even have a map, but we don't know what's the starting point. So I would definitely start with awareness and really be able to reconnect with how we are feeling and our bodies and our minds, and just really make like a snapshot of where am I now and what I would like to do different. And I do think it starts with awareness. And just then also this message of that our biology is plastic and it's adaptable and it can completely change. Really, we are much more flexible than we think, and for sure there's hope for our health and well-being. And sometimes that implies maybe going against our instincts and doing things that are out of our comfort zone. But even small changes can really make a big difference. I think that's what I would like to end with.
Yes, I touch on all of that. Hope, which is
Yeah.
something really important in health, and
Hmm.
small changes. Everyone always thinks that they need to make this massive
Yeah.
change, this massive thing, and that will bring a certain outcome.
Hmm.
But it's the small little things that we do every day.
Yeah.
And I call it baby steps, right?
Yes.
The small changes, the
Agree.
baby steps.
Hmm.
And awareness,
Hmm.
for me, in my point of view, is always the first step, like you said. And
Hmm.
I really thank you for bringing up, you you gave me a vision of like how mindfulness actually is a great first step to awareness in anything,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because we always
Hmm.
think about awareness, but actually they are quite interconnected, awareness and
Hmm.
mindfulness.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah, love that. So Beatriz, thank you so much for sharing your story with such a honesty and depth.
Hmm.
From tumor cells to lifestyle medicine, from science to consciousness, your journey reminds us that true prevention isn't just about avoiding disease. It's
No.
about creating a life
Mm,
that's aligned,
exactly.
embodied, and aware.
Exactly.
So, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us in this conversation. I hope
Mhm.
today's episode gave you not only insight, but also permission
Hmm.
to slow down, to tune in, and to see your body as something not just to fix, but to understand, to observe.
Mm-hmm.
And if this resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might need it. And I will see you in the next episode of the Oncology Revolution.
Thank you.